You've seen the notation. 5-wing 4, 9-wing 1, 6-wing 7. It reads like a hangar full of starfighters. A row of designations stenciled onto the hull. And if you're a man who thinks in systems, that notation is almost impossible to resist because it looks like it settles something. Here's the problem. Most people treat that little letter like a badge, a collectible, proof they're a slightly rarer edition of themselves. Psychology treats it as something completely different. Not a label, a pressure valve. And if you've spent years stuck between two numbers, quietly unable to decide which one is actually you, this is the reason why. By the end of this, you'll know what a wing really is, what it definitely isn't, why analytical minds mistype more often than anyone else, and why the wing you've been ignoring is the one holding everything you're missing. Start with something that isn't obvious. Every system humans build to describe themselves eventually grows subtypes. Star charts grow houses, blood types grow subgroups, personality systems grow wings. It happens for the same reason every time. The original categories are always too wide to hold an actual person. The Enneagram is 9 points arranged on a circle. That circle isn't decoration. The modern form was laid out by Oscar Ichazo in the 1950s and developed clinically by the psychiatrist Claudio Naranjo, and the geometry carries meaning. Each point has exactly 2 neighbors. Those 2 neighbors are your wings. Now, picture the man this matters most to. It's 1 in the morning and he has 4 tabs open. 2 of them are forums arguing about whether he's a 5-wing 4 or a 5-wing 6. He has read the same paragraph 3 times. He isn't procrastinating. He genuinely believes that if he gets the designation right, something inside him will finally click into place. I want to be fair to that man because he's closer to the truth than the people laughing at him. He's just looking for it in the wrong dimension. So we're going to go through 7 things about wings that almost nobody explains properly. They get more uncomfortable as we go. Let's start with the one that reframes everything. A wing is not a smaller version of your type. It's a neighbor you borrow from. Riso and Russ Hudson, who did more than anyone to formalize wings in modern Enneagram work, describe a wing as adjacent influence. Not a second personality living inside you, a coloring of the first one. And the geometry is the whole point. Point 5 sits between point 4 and point 6. Those are the only 2 points structurally beside it. You cannot borrow from point 8. There is no road there. So when a 5 leans toward 4, he doesn't turn into an artist. He becomes an analyst whose analysis is haunted by meaning. Same engine, different fuel. If you've ever felt like 2 descriptions both fit you, that's not confusion. That's the circle working exactly as designed. But that raises the obvious question. If the wing isn't the type, what is it actually doing? Your core type tells you what you're afraid of. Your wing tells you how you go about avoiding it. That single distinction is the most useful thing in this entire video. The core type is the motive. The wing is the method. In Naranjo's framework, the 5's core fear is depletion, the sense that he holds a fixed, limited amount of inner resource, and the world wants all of it. That fear does not change with the wing. What changes is the exit route. The 5 with a 6-wing hedges. He builds systems, checks sources, prepares for the failure case, keeps a small circle of people he has tested. The 5 with a 4-wing withdraws inward. He builds a private world so rich and so detailed that the outside one stops having a claim on him. Same fear. 2 men who look nothing alike. If you've ever wondered how 2 people with the same number can seem like different species, that's your answer. Now here's where it gets more complicated, because this next part quietly breaks the way most people use the system. You don't have a wing. You have 2 of them, and the ratio moves. Riso and Hudson argued for a single dominant wing. Naranjo's students push back, and much of the current work leans the other way. Both adjacent points stay available, and most people run some blend of the 2. More importantly, that blend is not fixed. Under pressure, people reach for whichever wing has historically kept them safe. In calm, they reach for the one that gives them room to breathe. So the man who looks like a 4-wing on a quiet Sunday can look like a 6-wing by Wednesday afternoon, 3 deadlines deep. He hasn't changed type, he's changed strategy. Which means the real question was never what is my wing? It's which wing shows up when I'm under load, and what does that tell me about what I'm bracing for? That question has an answer you can actually use. The other one just gives you a badge. And this next one, almost everyone in those forums gets it completely backwards. The most common mistype isn't between two types. It's between a type and its own wing. 5 wing 4 and 4 wing 5 are the classic pair. Both men are private. Both are pulled toward depth. Both find small talk physically draining. Put the trait lists side by side and they're nearly identical. But the trait list is the wrong instrument. Because the Enneagram was never built as a description of behavior. It's a description of motivation. So ask the real question. When something in you hurts, what do you reach for first? The 4 at the core reaches for the feeling. He goes into it, turns it over, wants to know what it says about who he is. The 5 at the core reaches for the frame. He steps back, wants the mechanism, wants to understand how the thing works so that it stops being a threat. Same room, opposite direction of travel, and logical types mistype here constantly because they read content instead of motive. They notice their own pull toward art or philosophy or music and assume it must mean a feeling wing, when often it's just a mind doing what minds do with beauty, taking it apart to see what makes it move. If you're the kind of person who wants the actual mechanism and not just the label, who'd rather understand a system than collect a result from it, and you're still here, that tells me something about you. It would mean a lot if you hit subscribe. We put out videos like this every week. Real psychology, explained in a way that actually makes sense for real people. Here's the part nobody in the typology world wants to say out loud. For analytical minds, the label becomes armor. Anna Freud cataloged a defense mechanism she called intellectualization, handling something emotionally threatening by converting it into an abstract problem. It works. That's why people use it. The feeling gets translated into a framework, and frameworks are safe, because a framework can be discussed from a distance. So a man says, I struggle to let people close because I'm a 5 with a 4 wing. Listen to what actually happened in that sentence. He described his loneliness and filed it away in the same breath. It sounds like insight. Functionally, it's a wall with a very sophisticated finish. And the more precise the system gets, the better the wall works. That's the trap, and it's worth naming clearly. The Enneagram isn't the problem. The precision is what makes it such an excellent place to hide. But this is the root underneath all of it. Your wing is not a preference. It's a survival strategy you learned before you had the words for it. Karen Horney, writing decades before the modern Enneagram existed, described 3 basic movements a child makes under stress. Moving toward people, moving against them, moving away from them. Every child tries all 3. Most settle on the one that works in their particular house and quietly keep a second one in reserve for when the first one fails. That reserve is what a wing behaves like. The boy who learned that withdrawing kept him safe, but who also learned that being useful and prepared bought him a seat at the table, grows into a 5 with a 6 wing. The boy who withdrew and discovered that the inner world he built was the one place nobody could reach him grows into a 5 with a 4 wing. Neither of them chose it. They were both solving the same problem with whatever tools the room gave them. Sit with that for a second, because it changes what the number is. It stops being a category. It becomes a record of what a specific child had to do in a specific house to stay okay. Which brings us to the last one, and honestly the most important. The wing you don't use is where your growth is. Carl Jung built most of his later work on one observation. The parts of ourselves we develop least are carrying the most unused energy. He called that underdeveloped side the shadow, and he was clear that it isn't the bad part of you, it's the unlived part. Applied to wings, it becomes almost mechanical. Whatever your dominant wing does well, your neglected wing does the exact thing your core type is worst at. For the 5 leaning hard on 6, all preparation, all contingency, all system, the 4 wing is the door to the thing he keeps postponing. Actually feeling what he feels instead of modeling it from across the room. For the 5 leaning hard on 4, all interior, all meaning, all private world, the 6 wing is the door to other people. Trust, commitment, showing up somewhere on a Tuesday because you said you would. And here's why this matters more than any other point on this list. The wing that feels foreign to you isn't foreign. It's adjacent. It's the one move on the circle you can make without having to pretend to be somebody else. So go back to that man At 1 in the morning, 4 tabs open, reading the same paragraph for the 3rd time. He isn't wasting his life on internet astrology. He's doing something much older than any of this, trying to find language for something he can already feel. The desire to be precisely named is not vanity. For a man who has spent his whole life being approximately understood, it's closer to a hunger, but the designation was never the answer. A 5-wing 4 is not a ship. It's a sentence about how one person learned to survive, written in a code he can finally read. You were never choosing between 2 numbers. You're standing in front of 2 doors out of the same room, and one of them, the one you keep walking past, is the one that actually opens. If you want to go deeper on this, I put together a video on the 5-wing 4 specifically, what it looks like from the inside, and exactly where it breaks. It's right here when you're ready.